Hello, welcome to SPMM Revision on Demand. In this podcast, I will discuss some key concepts in qualitative research. People's attitudes, values, and wishes cannot be quantified and analyzed without loss of significant important elements. So, an approach that is different from conventional quantification is required when you want to study attitudes, values, and wishes. Qualitative approach is different from quantitative approach in many respects. Qualitative research generates, does not test hypothesis. It takes an inductive, not a deductive approach. Results of qualitative research are not generalizable to a large population most often. The sampling approach used for a qualitative study is purposeful, seeking to include outliers, not to exclude them. This is different from quantitative research, in which sampling is usually done in a random sampling method. Qualitative studies focus on anomalies and outliers, unlike quantitative studies which seek to discard anomalies. Quantitative data are numerical, born out of counting or measuring. So collecting them requires some scale. But qualitative data does not include numbers. How to generate qualitative data? We can either use unstructured interviews, though there is a risk of poor return for the time invested due to the lack of focused questions, or we can use semi-structured interviews, which provide more return for the time invested. By means of these interviews, we can collect the opinions and attitudes of people. Another means of collecting data is using focus groups. Focus groups facilitate interviews in a group format with predetermined structure. This is especially useful when limited resources prevent individual interviews. Focus groups are used when the studied individuals share a common factor. This could be a common health experience, or it could be an experience of sharing the role of being a carer or being a professional of some special expertise. To be effective, the number of members in a focus group should be somewhere between 6 and 10. Generally, it's not a good idea to have just one group for the whole research. Many small groups must be included in the research to get a wider opinion. The reason for restricting the number of people within the focus group to 6 to 10 is, if a focus group has less numbers than 6, in small groups people do not feel comfortable in voicing their opinions. If a focus group have more than 10 members, again in large groups, some people may keep quiet and not say anything at all, while the others may dominate. This is the reason why it's recommended that focus groups should have members numbering between 6 to 10. There are various means of analyzing the data collected in a qualitative research. Firstly, transcribing refers to producing a written version of interview data. Content analysis refers to categorization of verbal data via enumerating procedures such as counting word frequencies, analyzing annotations, etc. Conversation analysis refers to analysis of interactional practices using combined audio and visual recordings. Discourse analysis refers to interpretation of social discourse in the context of occurrence. In recursive abstraction, the analyst condenses data into a summarized fashion and summarizes the summaries once again, and does this repeatedly until he reaches a conclusion. So these are some of the methods of analyzing data collected in qualitative research. There are also software packages available for transcription analysis. This includes programs such as Nudist and Atlas. An important term often used in qualitative research is grounded theory. When collecting opinions for a qualitative study, people say different things. How to organize and generate all these opinions into a single theory? This is accomplished by constant comparison of the collected data at different stages. From these comparisons, we repeatedly generate categories until nothing new is revealed. This is the point of theoretical saturation. Later, we can test these categories by collecting fresh data on the basis of the new categories that are made. This will confirm the exhaustiveness of the categories that are already generated. This is referred to as theoretical sampling. The attached image shows the cyclical nature of the process of grounded theory. Next comes the term action research. Action research is one type of qualitative research. It's also known as participant action research, PAR, or simply action research. This term refers to individuals and groups researching their own personal experiences. In action research, the clear-cut demarcation between the researcher and the researched subject may not be so apparent. Another type of qualitative research is ethnography. It refers to the qualitative study of cultures or people who have something in common. The commonality may be in geography, religion, or any shared health experience. The researcher can take one of the two perspectives while undertaking an ethnographic study, wherein the reality may be the overlap of these two perspectives. Emic perspective is a perspective taken by an individual within a specific cultural group about his own group. Etic perspective is the perspective of an individual outside a specific cultural group about the studied group. Now, we're going to see certain approaches to test the validity of a reported qualitative research. There are several methods available, but the most important methods to check validity for a qualitative study are listed here: triangulation, reflexivity, member checking, and deviant case analysis. Firstly, triangulation. Triangulation compares the results from either two or more different methods of data collection or two or more data sources. In this example, triangulation is achieved by checking the convergence of categories from a researcher's observation and the transcribed interview data from face-to-face interviews and focus group opinion. If the categories emerging from each of these individual methods of collecting data are the same, then we can say there is a good degree of triangulation in the qualitative study. Reflexivity refers to the sensitivity of conclusions to the ways in which the researcher and the research process have shaped the data. A reflexive account must be provided in the research report, with the researcher considering how the theory that emerged from the research could have been influenced by the stance, attitudes, and values of the researcher. In respondent validation or member checking, also known as informant feedback, the investigator's account is compared with those of the research subjects. For the conclusions of a qualitative research to be valid, the respondents from whom the opinions were collected should be able to identify with the conclusions derived from their opinions. Deviant case analysis refers to the fact that a good quality research should be paying attention to outliers and should not discard them. Selecting cases that are unusual or special in some way, such as people having outstanding success or outstanding failures, will help generate a well-rounded theory about an issue. So these methods, triangulation, reflexivity, member checking, and deviant case analysis help us to establish whether a qualitative research has been conducted in a valid fashion. So these methods help us to critically appraise a qualitative research study. Now it's time to ask yourself a few questions. Thank you for choosing SPMM course for your revision.